Hello everyone, Deanna here, and thanks so much for being here. Today's video, we're going to be going through the book Cress and doing a book review. So let's get through that. So first off, let's go ahead and go through my summary of this book. For years, Cress has been the eyes in the sky for Queen Lavanna, but it hasn't been by choice. She has been held prisoner in the lunar satellite, trapped with no way out, until she sends a distress signal to Cinder's band of misfits, and they take off on a mission to save her. But is it too late, or is it just a trap? Captain Thorne can't leave a damsel in distress behind, but he may also be walking right into an ambush. Apparently I had a very quick summary on this one, but this one, my goodness, this one. Okay, so start off by kind of giving a little background. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles series, so you're going to read Cinder, and then you're going to read Scarlet, and then you're going to get to our character, Cress. I read this version, if you see that on the screen, which is the version of the cover art, which has Cress with her long blonde hair sitting in her satellite with the earth behind her with like a purple background, which I absolutely love how this cover looks. And then you open it up and you've got what looks like potentially Cress with all of her hair chopped off, and then Thorne blindfolded. So that could be a bit of a spoiler, but it's literally right here in the cover. Like, this is what you're getting like what I got when I went into this. So I was just like, what's happening? But clearly, if you can see with the long blonde hair, this is a Rapunzel retelling. So we've got Cress trapped up in somewhere where, you know, it's not very easy to get to. She's in a satellite looking over the world and she can't leave. So it's very much got Rapunzel. She's isolated. She's kind of like very much like Tangled kind of Rapunzel, where she has to rely on like herself. She only really gets to see herself and maybe like one other person who comes and kind of gives her supplies and who may have her captive. Don't know how much I want to give away that, and honestly don't even really remember the name off the top of my head, but it's very much read Cinder, read Scarlet, and then you get to Cress. And I just love how much this just like picks up right from Scarlet. After you're reading Cinder, you get all of Cinder's background, then you read Scarlet, you get all of Scarlet's background, plus you get introduced to more characters like Wolf, Scarlet, and you get introduced to Captain Thorne, and then we meet Cress. And Cress is someone who we were introduced to, so it's very important. If you have not read, I'm going to say this first, if you have not read Cinder and you have not read Scarlet, then stop right now, because you are going to be spoiled, because I have to talk a little bit about what happened there to get us to here. So just go watch those, go read those before maybe you read Cress. If you don't mind being spoiled, then continue on. I'm going to try not to spoil what happens in Cress, but I might inadvertently spoil a bit of Cinder and Scarlet to get us to Cress. Okay, back to program. So we meet Cress very briefly in Cinder. She was the blonde, mysterious girl that Cinder gets a distress call when she fixes Kai's android, and she was the one that was trying to warn Kai about what Queen Lavanna was kind of doing with the Lunars. So we have that a bit of a background. So it's a bit of a question of like, can Cress be trusted though? There is a little bit of that, because as much as I think like Cress is very sweet and very naive, and very like wanting to help. She feels very bad. She feels very guilty for a lot of what she has done to help Levana get to the point that Levana's at. She has been Levana's spy unwillingly in like a lot of ways, but also kind of willingly in the way that she was just trying to survive and trying to be useful, because Cress is in a situation where she has not a lot of choices. So she's very much kind of stuck in her circumstances and just trying to please those that are holding her captive to possibly get free someday. But of course, you know, why are they going to let go of such an incredible hacker who has so many extraordinary skills and who helps Levana in so many incredible ways? And you learn a lot about the ways that she's helping Levana when you learn about her escape and how she's going to get out. But Cress essentially is very interested in the Band of Misfits. She's been following a bit of their progress because she gets all the news and the comm links and all of this type of stuff. She gets a lot of like that by being the spy. She has been listening in on some conversations and things like that. So she kind of knows some of what's kind of going on. She doesn't know them all very well, but she is a hacker and she is a information holder, and she very much likes to research, because what else is she going to do all day? She literally has a computer program that is like her younger self to play with, because that's the only other form of interaction that she gets other than that person that comes and sees her sometimes. And therefore she's just kind of starved for human interaction. She might not be up on the same level as anyone else who might be just in, you know, interacting on a regular basis with others. And she's got a bit of a questioning past as well, like where did she come from, what happened to her parents, that type of thing, because why is she in this satellite? We don't really know a lot of that, other than she's very useful to Queen Levana, so she has been put there as like a prisoner. And then, like I mentioned in the summary, once Thorne, when she has that connection with Cinder and the group, Thorne learns about her being someone trapped. He's like, well, we can't leave her there. Like, you can't leave someone trapped. Like, we got to go rescue her. So there's a big rescue mission. Like, this all very much happens in the first part of the book, so I don't feel like I'm kind of spoiling too much, because really it's more about what all happens as it kind of progresses, and like what happens with that rescue mission, and what kind of happens in any of the aftermath as well. And is it something to be trusted, because we have Cress who's so naive and just wants to reach out and trust them and just, you know, escape from this horrible life? Is she too eager almost? And is there something maybe that might happen to really like cause any kind of issue? So I don't want to say too much else because I might spoil, but it's very much, I loved the character of Cress. I thought she was so sweet and endearing, and I really felt for her in so many ways. And then I love her dynamic with Thorne, because they are opposites. So in my video about Scarlet, I kind of complained how they aren't very opposite, Scarlet and Wolf. I feel like they're very much almost the same person, so maybe that kind of made me not invested as much in them, whereas Cress and Thorne are completely opposites. You've got Cress, who is very naive to the world, very sheltered, very sweet and kind, and you've got Thorne, who is a bit more worldly, he's traveled, he's kind of a bad boy, he's got like a bit of shady past. I mean, literally was broken out of prison, so clearly he's not all perfect and wonderful. And then you've got him and Cress kind of coming together. It's like that innocent and that bad boy kind of coming together, and some people love that and some people hate it. Only issue I might have is I didn't really like the age difference as much, because she's supposed to be like possibly 16 and he's supposed to be like 20, and to me that's a little ick in that regard. But what I loved is that it was more of like she had a big crush on him. It's not like he was trying to like take advantage of her or anything like that. He was more looking out for her and like trying to protect her. So there was just kind of like that care between them, and I think they very much like evolved in a relationship, and that he was a certain way in what she pictured but turned out to be different, and she had to kind of come to terms with that and kind of see maybe something that he didn't see. And yeah, there's a whole dynamic there. So I just kind of loved that story in that regard. And I didn't really think, like, I kind of tried to imagine him as like, okay, maybe he's just like 18, because they don't really say the ages. I think that's just kind of the ages that like has been kind of discovered by trying to piece together some pieces here and there. It's not like it's like, oh, he's, you know, 27 and something, like, because that would have been really gross. But it's just something to kind of note. That is maybe one of the not great points that I want to promote. But the story itself is really fun, and I really love the adventure that Cress and Thorne go through, and how reliant on Thorne, or on Cress, Thorne becomes, and how vulnerable that makes him in a lot of ways when that's not really his natural state. He isn't one that wants to be vulnerable, and he has to kind of go through that and kind of go through his own story progression and character development with that. And I think Cress being there is just such like a wonderful thing, and like, oh my god, this gave me like chills sometimes of what was happening between them, and you find things out, and oh, it was just, yeah, I really, this I think is my favorite of the whole series, because I just loved the whole story arc. I loved kind of what was going on. We had so many other things that started happening, moving pieces of the characters and things, and it really like amped up the story. Like, this is really when it's like, okay, it's getting like, wow, like our stakes were already high, and now we're getting like higher, and like what is happening. And there was some scenes in here that just like broke me to the point I was sobbing, and like I just really enjoyed. I definitely also did a lot of annotating in this one, and there's a lot of annotations here of the same kind of legend that I used, where it was like the green is stuff I don't like, the blue is sad, our pink romance, our purple with our humor, which, you know, was typically, again, Thorne with all of his humor is usually, and there's a lot more purple that I see in this one, and then like our info, and I find it fascinating how well Marissa Meyer really does characters, because there's characters that feel a little more deeper than some, and you just feel like there's more layers to them, and there's more to them than just what they present. So I absolutely am in love with the series, and this was by far my favorite, and I just loved it so much. I can't really say too much more other than absolutely loved it. And I kept wondering when we were getting to this scene too, so this like hooked me even more, because it's like, oh my god, what's gonna happen to them? What happens that they're like in that state? And then it just becomes like so much more like, oh, just loved it so much. And then I did a journal entry, of course. Hopefully my battery doesn't die, because it is like blinking at me. I did a journal entry which I took the elements of Rapunzel, let down your hair. Aces, is that all hair? Thorne. Like, and then I love this one so much. I had some craft paper that kind of like reminded me of like the sweetness of Cress, I think kind of came through, like the soft colors and things like that, very much what Cress would love. And here is supposed to be, of course, Cress looking out onto the earth, and then I did put the Rapunzel tower to kind of give a shout out to the original. Got the title of Cress, Lunar Chronicles, 5 stars, and then some of my like my thoughts with some washi tape, and like the moon as well on the left page there. But yes, this one was just, I devoured it so quickly. I swear I finished it in one day, because I just could not put it down. I could not stop reading it. I was just so in love. I loved all like the elements, the chemistry, like so much of the fun of what was going on. Like the relationship between them is so adorable, and yes, I just love it. And I love Thorne in this one. Like, this is when I really fell in love with Thorne, and it's funny how much he is similar to Flynn Rider And I know Marissa Meyer was like, what? That's my character when she saw Tangled apparently, but apparently that's just the dynamic works well with like the innocent girl trapped in the tower and like the suave kind of debonair kind of guy who has a bit more to him under the surface that sweet girl is able to break through and get to. But yes, I loved it. So this clearly was a 5-star read for me, and I just absolutely love the story of Cress and highly recommend you check out the whole Lunar Chronicles series if you haven't read it. So that's gonna be it, because I'm just gonna gush and gush and gush about how much I love this story and just like had so much fun reading it. So that's it. I'm gonna leave that there for now. Definitely check back, because I will have the final book in this series, which is Winter. I will have a review of that coming very shortly. And yeah, check out the whole series. If you've read nothing and you've been spoiled, I'm sorry that I spoiled some, but it's still going to be really fun, I promise. And if you haven't read, or if you have read those and you're just kind of wondering what Cress is like, it's my favorite, and let me know if it's your favorite. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Cress and anything you thought of it. And other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being here.